Hey, what's up? It's Bond. Let's talk about Mass Effect. Specifically, we're going to talk about what people want from the next Mass Effect. We'll get into it here in a second, but first, if you like Mass Effect, if you like gaming, if you want news, speculation, and reviews on games, please subscribe to this channel. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up, the little like button, and if you have something to say, or if you just want to say hi, comment down below. Any of it helps with the sacred YouTube algorithm and trying to get my videos out to more people. Okay, so today what I'm going to do is talk about things that people want from the next Mass Effect game. Now, this isn't me just coming up with a random list. If you don't know, if you haven't been around the channel, or even if you have and maybe you haven't heard me talk about it, I never played Mass Effect until 2021 when the Legendary Edition came out. I was encouraged for years by one of my current co-workers. I've been at my job for over a decade at this point, and we've worked together pretty much the whole time. And for many years, he told me, hey, you gotta play Mass Effect. You gotta play Mass Effect. And I kept saying, nah, I'm good. Whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then when the Legendary Edition got announced, I pre-ordered it, gave in, played it, and now it's my favorite series. So I missed a lot of stuff in all of the years before I got involved. My only involvement with Mass Effect before I played it was that I actually worked at least 2 and I think all 3 of the midnight releases at GameStop when I was in college. The third game came out after I had graduated, but I still kind of moonlighted and helped them out with midnight releases for a while after I left that job as like a full-time position. And so I know for a fact I worked the Mass Effect 2 midnight release, and I probably did the 1 and maybe the 3. I would have to look at dates, but I'm fairly certain I did, because especially in those days, midnight releases were basically all hands on deck situations. That was definitely a very popular era for that. So here I am. I'm a big fan now, and I wanted a video to make, and YouTube's from my Twitch chat and our Discord server had pointed out that there's been a bunch of tweets over the years from various developers at BioWare and BioWare itself that have said like, hey, what do you want for the next Mass Effect? And there were 2 examples specifically from the 2019 N7 Day. There were some before that, but they were mostly from before Andromeda, and I feel like expectations have changed a lot since that game came out, for better or worse. So we are going to look at these at the replies to these 2 tweets. First from Mike Gamble and then BioWare. Now, a few caveats here. I'm not going to read every single tweet. I'm going to scan through and look at the ones that were the most popular and that were liked the most. Unfortunately, due to a new ownership of Twitter, even these really old tweets, the top replies are all people who are paying for Twitter, which, you know, to each their own. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But I really hate that actual user engagement isn't determining what tweets are shown in order, and instead whether or not you are paying a billionaire money for what, you know, for what is Twitter. So anyways, let's get into some of the content here. So first we have a tweet from Michael Gamble. Where do you want Mass Effect to go in the future? So this is from November 7th, 2019. Just to set the stage, keep in mind, this is a year before they announced the Legendary Edition, the remaster. This is a year before they showed the teaser trailer at the Game Awards in December of 2020 that confirmed the next game. The trailer that we all know well, that we've all talked about, I talk about every week. It's, you know, didn't exist at this point. So this lightly confirmed that they were probably working on something. My assumption is that pre-production was going on even back at this point. I believe, and feel free to correct me in the comments, this is also when Casey Hudson had still he had returned. He was still there at this time before he had left, I believe the following year or maybe the year after. to go start his humanoid studio, which we all know he's working on now. So, and about half the BioWare staff appears to be there. So keep all those things in mind, and let's look at some of this stuff. So first we have the legendary Shinobi 602, a pretty prominent and well-known gaming commentator and tweeter, especially a huge, gigantic fan of Mass Effect. So their response to this was back to the Milky Way. Pick a canon ending, reestablishing society in a dilapidated post-Reaper galaxy, political intrigue, factions and species vying for power, a tighter and more structured, wide linear game as opposed to the open world design of Andromeda. If you've been paying attention to my content over the last year or two, you'll know that this is almost word for word, but probably much better summarized what I want. I want back to the Milky Way, which I think we've gotten. I think that's happening. Pick a canon ending. I think there's at least been some pretty heavy hints that that's what's going to happen. And then the whole idea of like reestablishing society, the post-Reaper war galaxy, political intrigue, vacuums in power being filled. I think all of that stuff is, that's exactly what I want as well. So obviously I'm a fan of this because it agrees with what I want. And obviously I'm a big fan there. This one here was kind of interesting. It was 100% not Andromeda, cut to the Milky Way a few hundred years later. This is one of those I paid for Twitter, so my tweet goes to the top, kind of frustrating one. So we'll scroll down, we'll look for some of the more popular ones. Here's one with a few hundred likes. Deep and rich narrative, voice acting that is believable and expressive. Quests with epic crescendos and that are memorable and unique. Choices that matter and give the players decisions meaning. I don't know what they mean there. Skill systems that are expansive and allow for many unique styles of play. This is from CoCarnage. If you, they're a pretty prominent streamer, and they are actually someone who appears in Cyberpunk. If you ever walked by the homeless guy who's like preaching to everyone about like conspiracy theories, that's him. I think this is all fairly generic in my opinion, but it definitely seems, in my opinion, like a direct response to Andromeda. You have to remember this thread is from about 2 years after Andromeda, and I think that explains quite a bit. This one is kind of interesting, because this Jay Charlemagne, that is now, I assume back then, I don't know if Jay was even working at EA yet, but Jay is now the BioWare comm dev, the main comm dev for the entire BioWare studio. And so, and you may be able to tell that I bet they weren't at EA at that time, because they only have 19 likes on their post, but it says, I'd like to go to Commander Shepard's favorite store on the Citadel. And we have Kala, who's been creeping on this too, from about a month and a half to 2 months ago, which is kind of fun. Let's see here if we can find one that has quite a response. And if not, we'll move on to the next post. That was here's one with a few. Milky Way or Andromeda works all the same for me, even though I would love some more adventure in Andromeda. I just want to move forward into the brave unknown. Not my choice. I would prefer to stay away from Andromeda for at least one more game, but I do understand why. I really do genuinely appreciate the idea that Andromeda, we literally explored like one star system. So like, there is so much more to Andromeda still. I personally believe that would be better explored than like a true sequel another time, maybe after they are able to get the franchise maybe a little bit more back in order, but we will have to wait and see. Okay, we have one here that says, I would love to get a follow-up to Andromeda and get more info on the Benefactor, Ellen Rider, and the Jardan and the Scourge. even if it's a 20-hour esque focused on one off like Uncharted Lost Legacy, it can answer the writer specific questions while opening the galaxy. And I actually don't disagree with this. I still think, again, something like this would be better for like maybe the game after the next one that would be like a true sequel to Andromeda. But the idea, the benefactor, I actually think will be a big part of the next game, even if it takes place in the Milky Way. I believe the benefactor never left the Milky Way, and we're going to be learning more about the Andromeda and the initiative in the next game in the Milky Way, if that's the case. But finding out if they're able to cure Ellen Ryder, learning more about the Jardan and the Scourge, and seeing more about that, learning more about the Ket, seeing what happens to the Angara. If they ever show them again, I hope they're redesigned. I despise the Angaran aesthetic, but we'll have to wait and see. But not a bad one, even if it's not exactly what I want. Here we have the genshep.com here says remastered Mass Effect trilogy, playable races and single player, one more story with Shepard, though not necessarily as the protagonist. Mass Effect Andromeda 2, basically saying similar things. So you see this a few times, the remaster of the trilogy, people bring up, which is funny in hindsight, of course, because that's what happened. The playable races and single player, I've done the whole video on this, and I'm sure I'll probably do another one at some point. I personally don't want that. I think that Mass Effect is a human story told from a human perspective, but I have thought it would be interesting if the next game maybe had a Dragon Age Inquisition style system where during combat you could temporarily take control of your squad mates and play as them to maybe pull off some kind of unique strategic maneuvers and stuff. The one more story with Shepard, I'm obviously a big fan of, but I would like it to be as Shepard as the protagonist in this next game. But there's some pretty mixed opinions on that. And then, as much as I dog on Andromeda, I do want an Andromeda sequel, just not yet. I think we need to reestablish the franchise first. This one here, I will literally take any crumbs of Mass Effect you can offer me, sir. I need more Mass Effect in my life. I think you would find that many fans would agree with that. Reykjavik is a YouTuber who made a really good video, I believe it was last year, talking about how the Warhammer franchise gets like 10 games a year and books and comics and all of this stuff. Not all of them super high quality, but they get a lot of content, and some of it is good, and how jealous they are of that franchise as a Mass Effect fan, because we would kill for even just half of that stuff, especially if it was higher quality. This one here, I would love to play as a Turian and experience more of their world and culture, the good and the bad. This was something I always, you see a lot of pushback on the idea of a First Contact war game. The idea has always been that it's too closed-ended because we know what happens, and that it really wasn't that big of a conflict at the end of the day. I personally think that opinion comes from a fairly non-creative point of view. I think you could explore a lot of things in a First Contact war game, including like the discovery of the relays by the humans, the conflicts between the humans and the Turians when they go through the relay and activate it the first time, as well as the integration of humans into the Citadel Council species kind of society. And that could include learning a lot more about the Turians, and maybe, they could have gotten real weird with it and had a, like maybe we could have played as a Turian. If you do a prequel, maybe the rules are a little bit looser for where the story is coming from. So I will go over here to the BioWare tweet. So it is a similar thing. Hey, we're celebrating N7 Day with a series of short videos featuring the members of the team. We want to hear what you love about Mass Effect Universe and what you want to see in the future. So join the discussion by using the N7 Day hashtag. Happy N7 Day, everyone. And so the top one here is asking for a remaster. That shouldn't be that surprising. As we scroll down here, let's see if we can find any other popular ones. This one here has, I want to see Casey Hudson back in the driver's seat and see an Andromeda sequel worthy of the Mass Effect name. I enjoyed the original trilogy. I enjoyed Andromeda, but there's so much unexplored potential. This is what I love is Mass Effect as a story of hope. I still have some. So, obviously the Hudson Dream is a bummer. They are gone and have done their own thing. I still do believe pretty heavily that Hudson came back for those couple years to help set them in a direction with where the game was going, which is why I do think that 2020 trailer probably still does hold a lot of water about what is going to happen, because I suspect even at that time they had a pretty good meta idea of where the series was going, what the next game was going to be. I know there's been talk about how the intention is that the next game will be another trilogy. Hopefully, I assume performance matters a lot there. So I think all of that stuff is reasonable. Here again, we have the remaster, the Shepard trilogy for PS4 and 4K HDR. We've been waiting long enough, and what we love is the Shepard trilogy. This is what we want. Please make it happen. That happened, and it was actually, believe it or not, it was for the PS4 and PS5 as well as the old and new Xbox consoles. So we did get that wish in some capacity. Here we have, I love the storytelling, characters. I want to get back to Andromeda. I've fallen in love with so many of the characters, and I'd love to revisit their stories or at least hug them. So again, more Andromeda love than maybe some people would think, and kind of cool stuff there. So let's see. New adventures in both the Milky Way and Andromeda. You have the IP and the fan base to drive this as far as you want to take it, and if days like today are any indication, there are tens of thousands just on this platform that make Mass Effect and N7 a part of their lives. And I think that's kind of where you can even start to kind of wrap it up, and it's at the end of the day, I think people just want more Mass Effect, and me included. I obviously have this like very specific set of ideas I have and things I want from the next game. And I've just made a video a week or two ago about how even if they don't do any of the things I personally want, I could still love whatever they do, even if they basically make an Andromeda sequel. There's a few red lines they could cross for me. I really don't want to do any time travel silliness. I really don't want to see Shepard get like cloned or something. I don't want to see any of that stuff personally. But at the end of the day, and I've talked a lot about this, no matter what they do with this next game, if the game is made with passion and creativity, and some boldness, and some nostalgia, I hope, I think it can be really good, even if the choices they make aren't the ones I would prefer. And so I think if you look at all these tweets, if you look at all the videos I've made and other people have made, like Mr. Holthan and Kala and stuff like that, you'll see that everyone, while we may not all agree on what we actually want from the next game or what we think is going to happen, we all just want more Mass Effect. And I think that's what we really want. And we would also like it to be, high quality and stuff like that. So it's open. They can basically do whatever they want at this point, for the most part. And I really hope that they, whatever they do, I hope they make the game that they really want to make and aren't being pressured from outside sources too much on what they do. And I really hope that we learn more about it sooner than later. On that note, I am pretty doubtful we hear anything about Mass Effect around the Summer Game Fest, kind of all of these announcements. If we hear anything from BioWare, it's probably going to be Dreadwolf. We'll probably be waiting till N7 Day to get anything significant. But for as much info as they've given us the last few years, I wouldn't be surprised if N7 Day is very eventful and very informative, but also very vague to keep us guessing. So yeah. So let me know what you want from the next game. Let me know what you think of all of these ideas that I talked about, and get me down in the comments if you have your own thoughts. Subscribe to this channel if you like this video and you want more Mass Effect and or gaming stuff. Like the video if you did. You can find me all over the internet as Bond Diesel, on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and obviously right here on YouTube. I do have a weekly gaming podcast where I talk about news, I speculate a bit, and also do reviews if there's games that have come out that I've played. That is called the EchoCast. It is on all podcast platforms, and it's right here on this YouTube channel if you want to watch it there. That's all I have for this one. So until next time.